innocent memory from your childhood do you now realize was traumatic? Every summer from age 6 to 12, my grandma would pick me up for these incredible treasure hunting expeditions that lasted entire weekends. She'd show up at dawn with this beat-up station wagon packed with what she called her professional equipment, an ancient metal detector that weighed a ton, multiple shovels of different sizes, and thick rubber gloves that went up to her shoulders. Tell my parents she was taking me on educational adventures to teach me about local history and archaeology. My mom always seemed hesitant and would ask lots of questions, but my dad would just laugh and say, "Have fun with grandma's crazy treasure hunts." I felt like the absolute luckiest kid in the world because none of my friends had grandparents cool enough to go on real treasure expeditions. Grandma had turned her basement into headquarters. Walls were covered with hand-drawn maps of our town with different colored pins marking locations. Red pins meant high priority zones, yellow meant secondary targets, green meant already searched. She had dozens of folders labeled with street names, each containing newspaper clippings and handwritten notes. Before each expedition, we spent hours planning our route. She'd spread out detailed maps and explain the historical significance of each location. Told me our town used to be a trading post in the 1800s and wealthy merchants would bury gold during raids. She'd point to spots and whisper, "This is where the Patterson family lived. They definitely buried something behind their barn." During hunts, Grandma would get incredibly excited every time the detector started beeping. She'd literally jump up and down. Her eyes would light up like Christmas morning, grabbing my shoulders and saying, "This is it, sweetie. This is the big one we've been waiting for." We'd spend hours digging holes in parks, vacant lots, and sometimes even people's front yards when they weren't home. She always brought these little plastic baggies to carefully store our finds. Most finds were bottle caps, old coins, or rusty metal, but Grandma would examine each item like it was priceless. She'd hold up a bent spoon and say, "Look at the craftsmanship. This could be colonial era." Photograph everything with an old Polaroid camera and catalog, each find in a leather notebook. She was incredibly specific about locations, carrying this crumpled paper with addresses in her handwriting, crossing them off as we visit each spot. Sometimes she'd get frustrated when we didn't find anything, muttering, "It has to be here somewhere. Harold said he buried it right here, or maybe we need to dig deeper." You'd get paranoid when people walk by, quickly shoving finds into her bag, telling me other treasure hunters might steal our discoveries. Her stories about every location were so detailed. Leads in demolished houses, old businesses and empty lots, Civil War soldiers passing through town. She'd pack elaborate picnics and tell me stories about famous treasure hunters while we ate on old blankets. She made me feel like we were carrying on an ancient tradition of adventure. Last year, when Grandma died from Alzheimer's complications, I helped clean out her house. In the basement, those folders weren't historical research. Contained obituaries of neighbors who died over 20 years. The maps were phone book pages with random addresses circled. In her closet, we found boxes of all our treasures, hundreds of random metal objects, jewelry, silverware, dental work, but also things we'd never found together. Family photos, wedding rings, personal items that clearly belonged to other people. The devastating truth. Emma's medical records showed she'd been diagnosed with early dementia 15 years ago, right when our expedition began. Those weren't educational adventures. I'd been helping my confused grandmother dig through strangers' yards, searching for valuables that existed only in her failing mind. All those historical stories were delusions. The equipment was garage sale junk. Genuinely believed her deceased husband, Harold, had buried their savings around town, and she was desperately trying to find it. I spent 6 years thinking I was on magical adventures with the coolest grandma ever when I was actually witnessing the heartbreaking progression of a disease that was slowly stealing her mind. Those weekend expeditions weren't treasure hunts. They were the confused wanderings of someone desperately searching for something that never existed.